So I've been spending the last few days with this particular fragrance, and I have been enjoying it so much that I've been wearing it multiple days in a row, which those of you that follow my weekly rotations, you know that's out the norm for me. So that should let you know I'm really digging this one. And I'm talking about Hacivat from Nishane. Stay tuned. As per usual, we'll start off with the presentation. Here they have an interesting pattern on the front of the box. Extrait de Parfum. Logos, name of the fragrance on the side. Nothing on this side. More fragrance information on the back. It is an outer sleeve, and it is a very snug outer sleeve with this very textured exterior to the box. Nishane, Extrait de Parfum, that same logo on the side. Nothing on the top or bottom. And then it does pull out from there. I still actually have not opened this card up yet. I guess now is a good time to do so. And they do have a pillowed look, but it's actually just cardboard with this satin wrapped around it for the box to fit in snugly. And then Nishane on the front. Inside they have this little card, which is the first time I look at it, that has the actual notes on it. Interesting. And then on the back, it's like a postcard essentially. Let's look at the bottle. So with the bottle, it's a very simplistic design, just a square matte white bottle. Name of the fragrance, company, concentration, Istanbul. On the bottom, you do have fragrance information. This is a batch code for those of you that know about checkfresh.com. They do not support the batch codes for Nishane because I wanted to look my batch code up, because I've seen a bunch of people complain about 4, 5, 6 hour performance, and I'm getting way better than that, which we'll discuss in a little bit. So I wanted to see if I had an older batch or something. And then Nishane on top of the cap. It does hold into place, but not really well. It clicks in. I wouldn't advise always grabbing it from the cap, but nothing special in the atomizer, and it does put out pretty well. Let's get into this scent. So let's go ahead and pop that elephant in the room in the head real quick. The comparison to Creed Aventus. Let's get that out of the way here and now. While there are some undeniable resemblances to one another, in the dry downs, they go different manners. So I'll dive into this a bit more after, but yes, they share that pineapple bergamot fruitiness up top, whereas this has some floral tones and some ambergris. This does not have that. It has some muskiness, and they both have the oak moss. They're both chypras, but one differs greatly from the other in the dry down. Similarities, yes. Same scent, no. Not redundant in my opinion to own them both, although at first spray and first sniff you may think you're going to think of one or the other. You're going to think of them in the same light, but as you spend time with both, you'll notice that they're actually very different in their character. So with that out of the way, I'll have the notes on screen for you guys. In the opening on this one, it is a blast of the bergamot and the pineapple. I do get all the fruits up top. Only reason I'm not going to spray my hand right here is for that performance I hinted at earlier. It's late in the evening. I'm going to be going to bed in a few hours, 2 or 3 hours. I don't want to have that screaming off of my hand before bed, so that's why I'm not going to spray myself right now. But they also have grapefruit in the top. I don't really get any grapefruit. I mean, it's kind of a citrus medley where the pineapple jumps out a little bit, and then the bitterness of the bergamot will jump at me, and it's kind of trading blows kind of thing where it goes back and forth with what's dominating in that citrus medley that I get up top. But the main thing about this one is it starts to dry. The woods and the oak moss take over this fragrance. Okay, this is an oak moss fragrance through and through. If you don't like heavy oak moss, you'll hate this. If you're going to go into this thinking Aventus, that's where it's going to change for you, because while Aventus has oak moss in it, yes, and it is present. You can smell it. It's not dominated by oak moss. The dry down I find is more so about ambergris and still some birch, which this has no birch. It has no smoky aspect to it like Aventus does. Doesn't have the black currant to add that bitterness, or a lot of the characteristics of Aventus are missing from this fragrance. So while I understand some of the comparisons, I still think they're two very different fragrances, especially in that dry down, because this is so dominated by oak moss. It's pretty much woods and oak moss with a hint of musk for the majority of the life of the fragrance, because after, I would say, hour and a half, 2 hours in, the fruitiness is pretty much gone for the most part. There's subtle hints of it still in the background, but your grapefruit and bergamot obviously are first to go. The pineapple does hang around longer than those do, but it's mostly all about patchouli, woods, oak moss, and a hint of muskiness. And it kind of stays that way for me for hours and hours. I think this is actually more refined gentleman than Aventus, whereas Aventus is definitely that boss type of scent in my opinion. But I've had general managers and such that daily they wore Creed Aventus, and I understand why. It's a fragrance. When you wear Creed Aventus, it's a fragrance that empowers authority and stuff like that. It's that type of scent profile. I get it. I find this is the more refined gentleman. This is the guy that signs the general manager's paycheck. Obviously, not everybody that wears Hacivat does that. I'm just kind of trying to paint you a picture on where I put the two of these in order. I feel like this is a bit more refined because this is even more of a... I find this fits the Sheeper classification even more because it's so oak moss heavy. Very green, very herbal, mossy. Like I said, if you don't like oak moss, you won't like this. I think it's quite the lovely scent. It's a nice change of pace, whereas BondNumber9.com is a much fruitier, fresher take on what some would consider an Aventus smell, whereas this is a much more mossy, herbal take on what some would consider an Aventus smell. So while I enjoy Aventus, if I want something fresher and fruitier, I have BondNumber9.com. If I want something a bit more refined, a little bit more gentlemanly, and not so in-your-face smoke, I have Hacivat for that now. I think the scent on this one is lovely. I think the hype is real on this one, and it deserves all the praise it gets. This is my opinion, but let's touch on that performance that I was talking about. So, like I said, I've seen people say they get 4, 5, 6 hours on this, and I've seen people say it's still on their skin the next day. Everything's subject to change per individual. I don't know what the deal is with batch variations on this one. It's not super old, but it has been around for going on for 4 years now. Came out in 2017, but I haven't gotten more than 10 hours because I take a shower. I've been taking a shower at that point the last several days. So what you're gonna see on screen for longevity is 10 plus hours, because it could potentially go longer than that on me. But I can tell you for a certainty that I'm getting at least 10 hours every time I wear this. I spray 2 sprays on my chest and 1, 2, 3 sprays around the neck. 5 sprays is all I've been wearing. It has been more than enough. I have had a massive sillage. I have gotten 4 compliments in the last 2 days, not counting my wife. This is from strangers because we've been out and about a lot the last 2 days. And counting my wife, she's liked it both times. The second day she said, "Ooh, you're wearing that again." So technically 6 compliments, but 4 from complete strangers. We went several places. We went out to eat multiple meals in those 2 days as well. And this has been an absolute pleasure to wear for the scent profile, for the scent quality, and mostly for this performance, where it's been very long lasting. And the sillage and projection has been on the heavier side, but not the overwhelming side. Whereas I guess anosmia will set in from time to time, or if I stay in one place for a certain amount of time and then I move, it'll waft and I will get it. It's been filling the car every time we get in the car. It's been a little much. In the first hour and a half to 2 hours, my wife tells me it's super powerful. So I can't give you an exact, range, but it's definitely beyond arm's length in the first 2 hours for me. And then beyond that, it still has a very moderate scent bubble for several hours following. This is definitely beast mode on my skin. I don't know if it's this bottle, this batch, which I'll show that batch code one more time for you guys if you know somewhere to look it up, aside from Check Fresh, because I tried. They don't do Nishane batch codes, but it's a beast on my skin. Minimum 10 hours, heavy projection, but not overwhelming and annoying at the same time. This has been an absolute pleasure. Let's go with my overall thoughts. Must try, must own, must buy, must try, or a pass. Well, I think it's a must try, which will entice you to buy. Because of the price point, I'm going to say it's not must buy. I'll never say that for niche level fragrances because they're expensive. I understand that. Even from discounters, which this came from Kingdom Fragrances. Shout out to you, Steve, if you see this video. I don't know if he still has a stock. I know 2 days ago he did. Still have a few bottles left. There's a link below if you want to check them out. Around, I forgot exactly how much it was. But he does have 50 ml bottles available of Nishane Hacivat if you're interested. If not, Vimba Fragrances will have it as well. There's a lot of discounters that do carry it. It is an extremely popular fragrance. I think this is a must try. Don't just assume it's redundant or another Aventus type of fragrance. I thought that for the longest time too. Never judge a fragrance based on what you hear. Judge a fragrance on what you get from it. Try it, smell it, wear it on your skin. Don't just smell it on paper. Don't judge a fragrance just on a test strip. For a quick sniff, sure. But to really get its true character, how it's going to perform on you, how it's going to react, what oils are going to be most present and prominent on your skin, you need to try it for yourself on your skin. Wear the fragrance and spend time with it, because I was wrong about this one. I wrote this one off for the longest time. Finally decided, you know what, I need to do it. I just need to do it. I've been getting to where I want to get more. For some reason, I had this odd attraction to Aventus type fragrances here in the last year, and I've been getting more and more of them, and I assumed that of this because of what you see and what you hear and what you read out on social media. And I feel like this actually stands a little bit taller than Aventus. To be completely honest with you, it's a bit more refined. I think this is more gentlemanly because it lacks the smoke, it lacks the floral tones, the heavy floral tones of the rose and stuff like that. Lovely fragrance. Must try, in my opinion. Well, that's my thoughts and feelings on Hacivat. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, because I do appreciate all the feedback and I love hearing from you guys. How many of you have already tried this? How many of you get weak, average, or beastly performance? Because I'm sure I'm going to hear a little bit of everything in the comments, because I'm just telling you what I get. It's a beast on my skin. If you don't get but 5 hours, I'm sorry to hear that. That's unfortunate. I don't know if it's the way it's reacting with you, if it's a certain batch you have, or what. But for me, this stuff is the real deal. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on Hacivat and you give it a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.